She said!
Let them eat cake.
He took the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasants Perspective. I got that pretty good this morning. It almost sounds like we might be AI. Just kidding. We're as far from AI as it gets. All right. Looks like we got another day without Ron here. I'm sure he'll be in as soon as he's can leave. He's taking care of a loved one. So we forgive him for not being here. Not a big deal. I did get to go see the new studio. It is sheetrocked and we are on the home stretch. So that's pretty exciting. Very, very exciting stuff. So this weekend was pretty busy. A lot of kind of rehashing. Oh, look, my sweater is filthy for all of you guys watching. I'm a true peasant. So it's getting a little bit chilly here in Seattle in the mornings. It was raining quite a bit driving in this morning. So we have started our 9-month wet season, I believe. Lots of fun. My mom always jokes she's from the Pacific Coast and she doesn't really love the rain. And she always jokes when she comes up here to the Pacific Northwest, she brings the rain with her. It's kind of funny. All right. So there was this story. I'll share this with you guys today. We're going to start out with this. This is from Bill Melugin at Fox News. Breaking, a senior ICE official tells at Fox News that today ICE arrested the superintendent of Des Moines, Iowa Public Schools, Dr. Ian Andre Roberts, who ICE says is an illegal alien from Guyana and active ICE fugitive with a deportation order since May 2024. Fox has told Dr. Roberts fled from ICE agents in his car once they ID'd themselves as immigration agents, speeding away, then abandoning the car. He was found in a brushy area 200 yards away from with the help of an Iowa State Police canine, per ICE officials. Agents found a loaded gun, a fixed-blade hunting knife, and $3,000 cash in Roberts' vehicle. Per senior ICE officials, Roberts first entered the U.S. in 1999 on an F-1 student visa at St. John's University and was ordered removed from the United States on May 24, 2024, with proceedings being held in absentia. On April 24th, 2025, an immigration judge in Dallas, Texas, denied a motion to reopen his immigration case. Fox is told Dr. Roberts also has a weapons arrest in 2020, though the disposition of that charge case is currently unclear. So here's a little news with regards to it. I switched my screens up. Should have done that. Good morning, Doug. All right, so here's the Fox News report on that.
Welcome back. Fox News alert out of Iowa. Get this. The superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, Ian Roberts, arrested this morning by ICE. According to officials, Roberts is an illegal immigrant from Guyana with a prior weapons charge and a final order of removal. He was allegedly carrying a loaded handgun, $3,000 in cash, and a knife at the time of his arrest. A superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools. The district says it doesn't have any confirmed information on his arrest or what the next steps will be. I have some next step ideas. How about fired and then deported? Welcome back. Fox News alert out of Iowa. Get this.
Stop playing. Wow. Okay. The superintendent of public schools was an illegal alien. This is like the police officer in Maine that was an illegal alien. So he came on a student visa, overstayed his visa, not the most uncommon thing you've ever seen, but stuck around since 1999 and got to the point. By the way, his salary as the superintendent of curriculum at public schools, see, he was the superintendent of Des Moines, Iowa Public Schools. So he's the superintendent. His salary was like $400,000. $400,000 going to an illegal immigrant from Guyana that isn't even allowed to work at the local Dairy Queen. And he's the superintendent of public schools. This is how deep the rot has gone, right? While we've all been thinking the system's taking care of itself, oh, you've got E-Verify, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the illegals are just picking almonds and strawberries, right? No, they're literally running school districts in Des Moines. Process that for a second. School districts in Des Moines. He's just been arrested and he fled. He fled. Okay. This is Ty Cobb. This is one of Donald Trump's former lawyers. And he has completely gone anti-Trump. And he's here talking about how Donald Trump and this administration needs to rewrite history. And I don't disagree with him.
Well, the New York Times is reporting that half a dozen U.S. attorneys' offices have been ordered to draft plans to investigate a group funded by George Soros, who is a Democratic donor. You look at that, you look at the lists of names of others who the president has said he specifically wants to be prosecuted or investigated. I'll read a few of them to you. Two former Trump officials, Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor. He also said he wants a federal investigation into former special counsel Jack Smith. The DOJ fired the 35 lawyers who were involved in the January 6th and classified documents cases. Justice Department's now going after Fulton County DA Fani Willis's travel records. We have quite an exhaustive list here. What is the pattern you see?
Well, I think if you go to 30,000 feet, what you see is a lot of moving parts, but simple themes. The simple themes are rewriting history. Trump wants to rewrite history so that the next generation may not know that he incited a violent insurrection, refused to peacefully transfer the power of the presidency after losing an election, stole classified documents and showed them to friends and guests at Mar-a-Lago, and that he was a criminal. I mean, he's a convicted felon. Anybody involved in those events that offended him, they're in real danger. So you have the rewriting history stuff. The U.S. attorney that he appointed as personal lawyer, Lindsay Halligan. Her role previously in the administration was trying to eliminate the theory that America had slaves at the Smithsonian. She was there to whitewash the Smithsonian and paint America as something that it isn't. I mean, America needs to learn from the mistakes and lessons that we've had. And one of the biggest mistakes that America ever had was reelecting President Trump.
Well, the New York Times is reporting that half a dozen U.S. attorneys
to think about what is his motivation, right? To say we need to rewrite history. That I don't disagree with, right? His story, break the word down, his story, right? And the best way to find out his story would be for you to go and watch Rumble Premium. Don't worry, I'm going to get back to my thought after this shameless ad read. You've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and is not slowing down. They're building a real big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium on an easy way to upgrade your experience with Premium. You get ad-free viewing across the platform, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scene drops, and more from your favorite creators, like me. We're going to do about 20 minutes in Rumble Private or more after the show today. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium. Promo code STUDIO, STUDIO. No ads, no freedom, and content you actually care about, and that's the deal. So take a look at Rumble Premium. Of course, we stream on Rumble Premium at the end of every show, with few exceptions. Okay, so Ty Cobb here. My sound is garbly. Can I get some feedback on that? Can anybody tell me that my sound is in fact garbly? So Ty Cobb, well, now my sound got a lot better. Hopefully I didn't mess up my beautiful ad read. Okay, so Ty Cobb saying Trump has to rewrite history, right? When you consider his story, that is one of the challenges that we have as peasants. We want to trust our government. We want to trust authority leaders and stuff like that. So when they put out a narrative and say this is the truth, there's a desire to want to trust that. It's no different than a child who wants to trust its parent when the parents give them reasons to their numerous questions Why, Daddy? Why? When Dad says, because, they'd like to take that as authoritative. Sometimes it isn't. And so Trump having to go back, Ty Cobb's right. Trump has to go back and literally rewrite history. It's not because history was definitely true or not. It's just that narrative is not going to serve the Trump administration moving forward. It's pretty simple when you think about that. This weekend on all the weekend shows, the big news was Comey's indictment. There was just kind of endless talk about it. So we're going to continue talking about it because it's a big deal. And I would expect a cascade of indictments to start coming out. Comey, I would expect Brennan, this list of people that we've been hearing over and over and over again. I think we're going to hear it. And there are quite a few more subpoenas out. For example, Fani Willis is being subpoenaed for her records. Pretty much anybody that was on the persecute Trump bandwagon, their hands aren't clean.
I think we should take the president at his word. It used to be in 2016 in Trump 1.0, I guess, that it was considered the height of wisdom that the press takes Trump literally and the people take him seriously, and then vice versa. I think it's possible to do both at the same time. The president is telling us that he has an enemies list that he's going to act on. He's told us who's on the enemies list. John Bolton, Letitia James, Fani Willis ought to be on her guard, and many, many more, whether they're in the press or civic society. I think this is a real emergency, and it should be taken seriously, and know that he's going to act on it. It's not just blather out on the White House lawn. That's the difference between the first term and the second term. The first term was filled with impulses, and the second term is efficient, ruthless, and it's happening every day. This movement toward authoritarianism is very distinct and needs to be taken seriously. This is not just a normal, we talked about a budget battle and all that. That's normal politics. This is something extraordinary.
I've said that before too, right? You've heard me say, this isn't just a debate over tax rates. This isn't just a debate over social safety net. Oh, you don't want my screen. This isn't just a debate over the social safety net. This is the whole enchilada. This is picking the winners and the losers for the next generation. And Ty Cobb is right. Trump is going to rewrite history. He had 4 years. It was full of good impulses. Not a lot of good follow through from the administration, but now it's very efficient. That is one of the things that I've been impressed with as you hear from DC insiders, is that this administration is, if nothing else, ruthless like that. A letter, you're fired. A letter, you're fired. It's fire, ask questions later. They'd rather fire you than rehire you, than fail to fire you and make a mistake in not doing the firing. That is the thing I'm seeing over and over and over again. And I really do believe a lot of this is because at a high level, the administration understands what they're up against. Think about this. Donald Trump was attacked ruthlessly from the moment he came down the escalator. His closest advisors, for example, General Flynn, Devin Nunes, who was not necessarily an advisor, he was in the House, but, conservative, were all attacked. Kash Patel, George Papadopoulos, you can go through a list, right? Carter Page, not even a real serious insider, kind of on the periphery of the campaign. Paul Manafort, time in prison. The January Sixers eventually, as that came out, Bannon, Navarro, the Musk son, or not the Musk sons, the Trump sons, right? Don and Eric, everybody around Donald Trump got subpoenaed, got lawfared, got slandered in the media, right? And at the start of all this, mainstream media had a lot more power, had a lot more juice. But the other thing too is the mainstream media has been on a 10-year lying streak. I mean, there's hardly a news article that comes out that doesn't have some type of spin. Now, when you're the president, right? Bill Clinton said this one time, being in office and then seeing what they print in the paper, there's like two different worlds sometimes. Okay, fair enough. Every president, every leader is going to see that. I saw this when I saw myself in the news. Well, what the news is saying, what AP News is saying about me isn't really true. Some of these quotes aren't even accurate. Where are they even getting this stuff, right? Elon Musk is another person who's been affected by this media zeitgeist creation. It's one of the reasons why he bought X. Let's listen to him talk about it. And this is what the media This is what the Trump administration understands. They understand the workings of government, and they understand how the media runs cover and creates these narratives. And when you understand that the media and news are fake, that's when you get the ruthlessness that you see in this administration.
Unfortunately, what I've learned is that legacy media propaganda is very effective at making people believe things that aren't true.
What would an example of that be?
That I'm a Nazi, for example. Right. And how many legacy media publications, talk shows, whatever, try to claim that I was a Nazi because of some random hand gesture at a rally where all I said was that my heart goes out to you, and I was talking about space travel. And yet the legacy media promoted that as though that was a deliberate Nazi gesture, when in fact every politician, any public speaker who's spoken for any length of time has made the exact same gesture. And yet there's still people out there, and I've never harmed a single person. Unfortunately, what I've learned is that legacy media
So legacy media is propaganda, even to something as simple as overblowing a hand gesture and making comparisons to Hitler. Oh, you're Nazi because you Heil, right? If you lie about the small things, imagine what you'll do about the big things. That's the lesson here, right? It's the lesson that every mature, well-balanced adult understands. If you lie about the small things, what are you going to do about the big things? That is not including hyperbole and, sarcasm. Most well-balanced, adjusted adults can adjust for that. That's why they're not bothered when Trump goes, "It's the best in the world." Come on. I was just driving by a gas station yesterday on my way to my weekly shindig at Buffalo Wild Wings, right? Driving by a gas station. It's a Chevron. It's got a Mexican microwave restaurant in it, right? We're talking like where they can warm up your quesadillas and your prepackaged burritos, right? It has one of those Mexican restaurants inside of the gas station. And there's a sign outside says best food in town. The Chevron gas station has a sign out advertising its Mexican microwave menu, calling it the best food in town. I started laughing with the guy I was in the car with because I'm like, best food in town. Like, you can't even if you try to define the town as 1 square mile, we're not in town, right? There's a barbecue joint like right there. You tell me that microwaved Mexican food is the best food in town? We understand hyperbole, okay? When you say something is the best, we're like, it's good in his opinion, okay? We get that. That's not lying. That's what Trump does. Trump does a lot of hyperbole. He does a lot of, if we're number 3, we'll round up to number 1, right? That's fine. Everybody understands that. On hyperbole, yes, Trump says whatever he wants to say. When it comes down to the nitty-gritty facts, directionally, Trump is always right. He's consistently right. I can't think of something where he's been outright wrong. Okay. Can't think of something where he's been outright wrong. Definitely a little bit of narrative and spin sometimes. That's acceptable. That's normal, right? But the outright lying, like saying Elon Musk is a Nazi and supports fascism and Hitlerism because he made a hand gesture. If you lie about something that small and turn it into something so big as calling someone Hitler over it, you can't be trusted for anything, which is why the Democrats have lost all faith, and their leaders, we're talking about the real backroom leaders, have been wrapped up in this grand conspiracy that Stephen Smith described that Donald Trump retweeted this week.
Brennan, Obama, Monaco, all conspired together, all worked together to try to sabotage, undermine, unravel the democratic institutions and structures of this country. The Russiagate hoax, the Russiagate conspiracy, and all of the assaults against our liberties that went with it, the pre-dawn raids, the handcuffing of innocent Americans, the espionage against President Trump's campaign and staff, the removal of his national security advisor, one fake indictment, one fake charge after another, the special counsel, all of it was a unrelenting attempt to overthrow the government the American people voted for. I cannot find words harsh enough to condemn the conduct of these conspirators, these insurrectionists.
Now, the media, right, the one that Elon Musk just told you, lies about even the small things like a hand gesture that he makes needs to be thrown out, right? They went to extreme lengths to overthrow the United States government and our normal democratic procedures. Extreme lengths. So far that they called the richest man in the world, who just simply said, "My heart goes out to you," they called Nazi, grasping at straws, but creating an environment where here in Seattle, I drive around and every other Tesla has a bumper sticker on it that says, I bought this before, found out Elon was crazy, or, an Elon with a circle and a line through it, the cancel Elon logo. People out there doing that. Why? People out there believing Trump is a Russian stooge. Why? People out there believing Russia interfered in our election. Why? There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that there was any significant interference in our election. In fact, they backed off as the election got closer. They expected Hillary Clinton to win, and they had more dirt on her than on Donald Trump, right? It's all the zeitgeist. So yes, Ty Cobb, Trump's former attorney, Trump needs to rewrite history. Otherwise, you're going to have guys like this, John Brennan, who by all accounts is, guilty as sin. He's going to be out there rewriting history. I've examined everything I did, and I just don't see a case against me.
I don't see any case against me. I have looked back on all of my actions and decisions, and with John Durham, the special counsel, and others that have looked at what we did, that was certainly consistent with our legal authorities and with the law. So I don't know what they're referring to there. Individuals who used to work in the government, even if their security clearances were revoked, they could be subpoenaed. They could be, called to provide testimony in support of whatever allegations they have. I don't see a case there. I don't see any.
I don't see a case against me. What could they possibly have against me? I didn't try to overthrow the United States government. I didn't know that Hillary was cooking up a Russian plot and that I was just going to be pushing it forward. These people are kind of sick, aren't they? I love that. I've examined everything that I've done, and I just don't see the case against me. Michael Cohen, who was Trump's former attorney. Now, the history on Michael Cohen, he worked for Trump 10 plus years. I can't remember what it was, 10 plus years. And he was kind of like Trump's private attorney fixer. Like, this is the guy that you have do non-attorney things. So this is not your wealth manager. This is not your contract writer. This is not your, what do you call it? Like business on retainer like that. This is your fixer. This is the guy that you use to write threatening letters. This is the guy that you use to answer your mail. This is like your right-hand man that's an attorney, kind of understands lawscape, and his job is to keep your personal life out of trouble. That's what Michael Cohen was. That's why Michael Cohen was involved in payoffs and non-disclosure agreements with stories that could be negative to Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. That was Michael Cohen's role. When Donald Trump won the election, Michael Cohen, from all reports, wanted a position in the White House, an actual job title. For whatever reason, he was denied one. And one of the things he immediately started doing was selling access to the president. I think AT&T paid him like $250,000 basically just to, have him in their Rolodex. That ticked off the Trump administration, and that put him on the outs. And then from there on out, he kind of became this target because he was the one who made the payments to Stormy Daniels. He's the one that Trump paid as a legal expense, who then paid a legal expense for a non-disclosure agreement to Stormy Daniels. And that's what converted into the 34 felonies. Michael Cohen himself was arrested. He was charged with, I think one was like lying to Congress or whatever, spent some time in prison, not long, got one of those 1 year less sentences. So he spent 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was in prison, and some halfway house time. At one point he was released on some COVID stuff and he had an ankle monitor and he was out at a nice restaurant in New York. Total mess, right? But this is Michael Cohen, understands the legal system. He is an attorney, himself has been through it. And I think that you learn more about the legal system going through it than learning about it in a school setting or even in practice as an attorney. I think you still learn more about it as an inmate, how it really is. Okay. And he thinks that James Comey is guilty and is going to prison.
Do any of us actually really know whether or not Comey is or is not guilty of the charges? I know that they parade out all of these pundits. They have the great titles in the Chiron, former prosecutor, yada, yada, former FBI. Who's seen a single document that's in the possession right now of the DOJ? The answer is nobody. Who has the crystal ball? Still nobody. I will tell you from my investigation, which I used Brian Karem, who's a 30-year White House correspondent, to speak to people inside government because they wouldn't talk to me. I've learned that Comey was actually very much involved in the Russia investigation in a very negative way. And chances are this DOJ has every single email, every text message, every communication. I believe likely he will be found guilty.
Oh, well, that's interesting because
I think he likely committed a crime.
Wait, what? What specifically?
I believe likely he committed a crime. I don't know what that crime is, but there are hundreds of thousands of documents, and government has each and every one of them. All they need to find is that one.
All they need to find is that one document, and they'll be able to prove that James Comey committed a crime. And I'm certain they already have it, according to Michael Cohen. He's cooked. And the reason is because you've got a lot of people that are thinking that James Comey didn't really commit a crime. In fact, there's one guy who I think is absolutely redonkulous, and I'm going to jump ahead and play his clip here. This is his name is Andrew McCarthy, and Andrew McCarthy is at Fox News. I think he used to be a writer for National Review, and this is one of those people consistently right now. I don't know. I think highly of myself, aficionado in the news. Andy McCarthy there's a word in Portuguese where we call it mole. You're mole. It's a combination of words like you're squish. If you think of spaghetti as it starts to get wet and it goes limp, right? It starts to get moldy, but it's not totally spaghetti yet where it's, totally a limp noodle. It's still got a little bit of structure to it, but you can pretty much bend it in half. That's moldy, right? It started to get moldy. It started to get soft. It's a squish, right? Mole. That's what Andrew McCarthy is. He's moldy, right? He's squishy. He's never wants to take a firm stance on anything. And when he does take firm stances, sometimes they're unexplainable. Now, I've watched this guy for almost a decade now on news, and he cannot get into a debate or an argument with people. They talk over him. He can't get his point out. I'm sure he's very intelligent, probably can, pass a law, probably pass the bar today with flying colors, right? But when he talks about how he just doesn't see a case here with James Comey, I'm curious if he didn't see a case with Peter Navarro or Steve Bannon. I mean, it's hard to know. But this is, again, on the right, this Andrew McCarthy represents the legal thoughts of the rhino squishes.
Comey, in terms of whether or not you think it will actually hold up in court.
Yeah, what amazes me, Martha, is that people seem to think this must be about Russiagate. This must be about how they lied to the FISA court and got the authority to do the surveillance and the whole Trump-Russia collusion nonsense. This is not that. This is a sort of a petty thing about the Clinton campaign. But if you look at the underlying facts of the indictment, to the extent you can make them out, because the indictment almost fails as an indictment in that it doesn't give you notice of what he's actually done. But factually, there's nothing there. So this smacks of wanting to put Comey through the process, which is what lawfare is. The penalty is the process. And I think Trump feels that that's what was done to him. And I don't think he particularly is that interested in whether Comey ultimately gets convicted or not. He wants to put him through the process. The problem he has is those lawyers at the Justice Department, when they sign off on those pleadings, they have an ethical responsibility to at least bring a case that has a reasonable chance of prevailing, and this is not that case.
All right, well,
so Andy McCarthy thinks that this case will not prevail. Now, I'm not going to play it, but Pam Bondi, of course, went on to Fox News and does not feel that way. She's like, we'll see you in court. We'll see you with the jury. So I think they'll get the conviction. I'm not worried about a conviction or not. It's not, whatever. They're correct. The process is the punishment. And to the extent that, the pressure is now on James Comey, it's right. It's going to be kind of panicky. And this was explained by an MSNBC contributor. Now, I don't remember this guy's name. I've seen him a bunch on MSNBC, and every time I think of him, I think of the black Kermit Frog, right? Kermit Frog voice. So, anyways, I don't know. I feel bad to say that about the guy, but it is what it is. Okay, but before we do that, we are going to talk about crypto. Before we hear about James Comey and how this gentleman is very concerned for James Comey and his emotional well-being, let's talk about crypto. Let's be clear, cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com. That's the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-time perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head to crypto.com today and grab some CRO, and let's make crypto great again. I think crypto is a good investment as long as it's not a bad investment. And that, my friends, is the best investing advice you'll ever get. It's a good investment if it's a good investment. Otherwise, it's bad and it's not good. Okay, so this is MSNBC being very concerned about Comey's emotional well-being.
Maybe Comey will end up walking away from this, but this will still be expensive. It will be stressful. It could ruin Comey's life for a time. And it seems to be foreshadowing, if Comey's now, who could be next?
Right. I think that's the punishment. It's the punishment. James Comey has to have expensive lawyers now, and it'll take a lot of his time and emotional investment. Theoretically, his liberty will be at stake in this case, and that's what. Look, the Justice Department. A federal indictment is nothing to sneeze at. It is a life-changing event, and this is clearly punishment directed at James Comey. I mean, it couldn't be more explicit because that's what Donald Trump demanded in so many words in that message to Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. It's basically saying, go indict this guy. Find something to indict this guy on.
Isn't that precisely what Barack Obama did? Isn't that precisely what Barack Obama did? Right? Don't we have the memo coming from James Clapper? Hey, this is our story. We're sticking to it. Everybody in on this. We got to write some history here. We got to write some history. That's exactly what they did. Oh, but I'm so sorry. James Comey, it's going to be rough. It's going to be really hard because, it's going to be very emotional for you and your family. What is wrong with these people? Seriously. Okay. So Donald Trump also posted this. There was a John Solomon release that came out that had a report that there were 275 plainclothes FBI agents that were in the crowd on January 6th. Now, there's a little bit of conflated reporting on this. They were deployed into the crowd before and after the, quote, riot started, which I'm not supposed to use the word riot, according to the former defense attorney. Is like, don't concede that ground. It wasn't necessarily a riot. Nobody's actually declared it a riot yet. But anyways, that they were in the crowd, and there's on the left the narrative, oh, they were there to do crowd control after the fact. Except the problem is you don't send people in to do crowd control and then tell them not to do crowd control, and you don't send people in to do crowd control plain clothes. You would send them in, we call them turtle outfits or battle rattle. So that doesn't really square. So we don't really know the role of these 275 agents. I'm sure some of them were sent to just do observation, but there's a good chance it was a little more than that. So Trump posted this. It was just revealed that the FBI had secretly placed against all rules, regulations, protocols, and standards. So they broke all the rules doing this. 275. Directionally, I got it right, though. FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. This is different from what Director Christopher Wray stated over and over again. That's right. As it now turns out, FBI agents were at and in the January 6th protest, probably acting as agitators and insurrectionists, but certainly not as law enforcement officials. I want to know who each and every one of these so-called agents are and what they were up to on that now historic, hey guys, guess what? Ty Cobb says we're rewriting history. Do you think J6 will actually be like a good day in history? Historic day. Many great patriots, woohoo, me, were made to pay a very big price. 14 months in federal prison, 420 days separated from my family, looking at a 7-year sentence, having the fact that I wasn't going to see my youngest child again till, my youngest child was going to be 10 by the time I saw him again. When I left home, he was 4 or 5. And I wasn't going to see him again until he was almost 10, right? Patriots made to pay a very big price only for their love of their country. I owe this investigation of dirty cops and crooked politicians to them. Christopher Wray, and then director of the FBI, has some major explaining to do. That's 2 in a row, Comey and Wray, who got caught lying with our great country at stake. We can never let this happen again to America. Woo, good to hear. Now, I don't think it's just the 2 who have been caught lying. It's a little bit more than that. I'm pretty sure if you actually went through and scrutinized all the FBI directors, you would find some of the things they testified to, history didn't exactly prove them right. I'm a little late on getting to you, but Shantini, welcome to the show. Glad you made it. Okay, so this is Jake Tapper questioning Mike Johnson again about the Comey charges and also referencing January 6th and the protesters that were in the crowd. And of course, Jake Tapper runs the line. Oh, Kash Patel said they came after the fact. They didn't instigate it. They showed up after to do crowd control. Yeah, we'll see about that.
It should do. And they have to hold people accountable. We have to ensure that the rule of law applies to everyone. And that's exactly what's happening here.
Does the rule of law have to apply to people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. There's new information over the last couple of days about that as well. Apparently, there were 274 FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th.
No.
I think the total number of persons
Kash Patel just brought some enhanced understanding to that. They were sent there to do crowd control because of everything that was going on. It wasn't a false flag operation, as President Trump suggested.
Well, Jake, wait a minute. Hold on, Jake.
I got to point something out. Never, ever, ever does CNN or MSNBC get their panties in a wad when they can just let it ride, right? So the fact that Jake, whoa, Kash Patel, you don't like Kash Patel. You called him a liar 8 minutes ago. 8 minutes ago, Jake Tapper, on the previous segment, I'm sure you had a guest on who called Kash Patel a liar, that nothing could be trusted that comes out of his word. But now you want to trust, they showed up after the fact. They were just there in response to, not provocateuring. Okay, right. The fact that he jumped in so tight, knowing everything we know about the news and the mainstream news, it's like, that's suspect. Sounds like you're trying to maintain a narrative.
How do you know that, right? There's a lot
of
questions,
what Kash Patel
brand
said.
New questions about
the liar, Kash Patel.
Well, and I'm telling you that there's videos, and it's always been disputed what involvement some of those persons, engaged in, what involvement they had. Did they spur on the crowd? Did they open the gates to allow them in? I don't know. These are questions, but they should be answered. And yes, there's a lot of investigation and discovery to go forward. We have a select subcommittee, bipartisan, a committee that is reviewing the investigation of the original J6 committee. I mean, a committee investigating the previous committee. Why? Because there was so much bias in the system. And that committee was rigged, I think. And I think my theory is, I've always believed that they got rid of evidence and they hid some of this. So all of it's going to come out. The American people deserve full transparency.
Full transparency,
and that's what
100%.
Congress is working on, and that's what the administration is working on.
I'm always in favor of full transparency, including for the Epstein files.
The Epstein
that will probably
files.
come on the floor of the House.
Me too.
Soon, and we'll have lots of discussions about that. Speaker Johnson, always good to have you here. Thank you so much, sir.
Always good to hear from you, Speaker Johnson. The Epstein files. These guys get kind of sickening. We've got 4 years. 4 years under Joe Biden, could have released the Epstein files at any point. Trump gets in, release the Epstein files. It's getting less and less because over and over and over, there's more and more testimony that Trump's not in the files in the way you want him to be. He's going to come out smelling like a rose when it's all said and done. Did you know he was an informant on Epstein? And that's where people's brains start... Right. They really want Trump to be guilty. I did appreciate Marjorie Taylor Greene over the weekend said, I'm not suicidal. and essentially saying, I'm going after this Epstein list. Trump's not on it. Nobody needs to worry about that. There's other people that he's protecting, which I think we read last week just about that Trump seems to really be protecting people. Hey, I got to say, those of you that are with us here on the stream on Rumble, thank you so much. We actually have nobody on YouTube right now, which to me is great because I do want people to migrate over to Rumble. So thank you for being on Rumble, those of you that are there. And please do not forget to repost the show. Go into your little Rumble thing, hit repost. I don't know if you can even add a comment. Just great show, repost, and then add a comment to the show too. Totally helps us in the algorithm, helps us grow. It's interesting, the show grows one follower at a time, just one follower at a time. So please share the show. Don't forget to repost it. Hans Monkey, however you want to say this, he says he's got an interesting perspective on this James Comey indictment. So let's take a look at this. So he says, hate to say it, but it's important not to lose perspective on the Comey indictment. There's absolutely no reason to get carried away. Yes, it's great that he was finally charged. And yes, Lindsay Halligan pulling it together in 3 days was heroic. But the way it happened tells you that there's no master plan, no stack of sealed indictments waiting to drop, and no coordinated sweep of corrupt officials. This was a last-minute scramble to get something on the record before the statute of limitations expired. Because if you remember, statute of limitations expired, I think, tomorrow, if not today. It was very, very quickly on the lying to Congress statute. Now, if you could tie it to a larger grand conspiracy, you could extend that statute of limitations, but that was the problem. This grand conspiracy is probably going to take some time to put together, and frankly, it's a 50-50 shot if they ever actually pull it together, okay? So the fact that they got James Comey, they had to fire a United States attorney, then they had to nominate a new one, then they had to pull the nomination of that one and then throw this one in who's never actually been a criminal lawyer and who personally oversaw the grand jury, which is unheard of for someone at that position, a United States attorney. Usually that's done by assistant United States attorneys. So Hans Maki's not incorrect there. This was a last-minute scramble to get something on the record before the statute of limitations expired. The sad truth is the DOJ is still packed with saboteurs. How do we know that? Because Maureen Comey, James Comey's son-in-law, was actually an attorney at the Eastern District of Virginia where they got the James Comey indictment. And he, along with others, signed a letter saying why they should not indict James Comey. So the DOJ is still full of people that think that way. We just watched it play out at EDVA, Eastern District of Virginia. There are only a few real fighters trying to do the work. Ed Martin, now backed by Lindsay Halligan, maybe one or two others, and that's basically it. And the few who are in the fight are surrounded by people who stall, block, and undermine them, including Trump appointees, who either out of careerism, cowardice, or incompetence aren't pulling their weight. If DOJ were truly running a serious justice operation, you'd see signs. You'd have early morning raids, FBI personnel up and down the chain being dragged in for questioning, Mueller thugs hauled in for days-long interviews, and so on. And to anyone who thinks this stuff is all quietly happening behind the scenes, no, it isn't. If it were, MSNBC would be screaming about it nonstop. Now, I can't necessarily say yay or nay on what he's saying, but sure rings true to me. I think they're absolutely right. They had 300 January 6ers plus rounded up and indicted by this point in the Biden administration. You don't need a lot to get a grand jury indictment. And frankly, my whole premise on how there's no cops, there's only laws. That's kind of how it felt in the Biden regime. They were going to come after you no matter what, right? All the way to the point to remember, our good friend, was his name Thomas Mackey? I hope I didn't get his name wrong. Call him a good friend, who was indicted for putting a meme out in 2016 and spent 7 months in federal prison. And then ultimately the appeals court dropped his case as no evidence. They got through the indictment. They got through preliminary pretrial hearings. They got through motions to dismiss. They got through a trial. They put him in prison just to ultimately come back with no evidence, case dismissed. Unreal. So the fact that Hans Maki's like, hey, they're not doing serious work. I'm like, do they need to? Isn't like one NSA spy warrant probably enough to get indictments, right? It's possible there could be something going on behind the scenes, but the Trump administration, they want to do everything by the book, because if they don't do it by the book, then they're the same as their enemy. Unfortunately, when you listen to people like Devin Nunes, they had no book. Their book was win at all costs, no matter what. And it extended to everybody.
Devin, thanks very much for being here this morning. Give us your reaction to the indictment of Jim Comey.
I think Comey should consider himself lucky, Maria. Number one, that he wasn't treated like Roger Stone was treated, who had a very similar charge where they actually raided his home at 6 a.m., drug him out. And that was before they had actually called the CNN cameras so that they could go and get it all on camera. So that didn't happen to him. Secondly, what also didn't happen to him is what happened to General Flynn, where Comey himself admitted that they ambushed Flynn in the White House, charged him on very similar charges, even though the FBI agents themselves said that they didn't believe that Flynn had lied. And oh, by the way, that information had leaked out on General Flynn, that they then misled the American public about what actually General Flynn said. So look, Comey has long been a liar, a leaker. He's dishonest. He ruined the FBI. And I would just lastly say this about this indictment is he's also going to be very lucky if there's not a superseding indictment. But I'd say most importantly, he will be lucky if there is not a grand conspiracy charge brought, which is really what should be brought against probably about 24 characters in the United States over the last 7-8 years.
So that's what I want to talk about. The conspiracy charge, will that come? And what does that mean, the conspiracy charge? Because John Ratcliffe also brought that up to me, saying the statute of limitations does not apply if it's a conspiracy that's still going on.
Yeah, that's right. And so when you go back and look at this at 50,000 feet, what are we really talking about here? What actually happened that they were all involved in? It all goes back to really one thing, and that was that there were 30,000 emails that Clinton had, that Clinton was worried would come out before the 2016 election. And then if those came out, it would make her unelectable. That's what this is all about. Everything goes back to that. And then what happened is that Comey and company and all of them got involved in the so-called Clinton plan, which, if you remember, the Clinton plan was to do what? To say that the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians, and that's how the emails got out. It's all true. That's all happened. That's like the quintessential definition of conspiracy.
Unbelievable. So I want to know from you is who else do you believe should be indicted? You just said there should be dozens more who should be affected here. And also the chance of further charges against Jim Comey. Is it just lying and obstruction or something more? Stay right there. We want to talk about that when we come back. I'm with Devin Nunes this morning, and we'll be right back.
All right, we're sticking through the break.
Is number one, should there be more charges against Jim Comey? And number two, should there be more indictments? What do you think?
So on Comey, I think the answer is for this, it's very specific, and it's over whether or not he lied on this one part. The larger part is whether or not you can bring a kind of grand conspiracy case. And, people talk about, there's the law, which is, lying to Congress, lying to the FBI, but there's also a term in there called misleading. And what a lot of these guys did is they made up things using intelligence that didn't exist, but acted like they knew something that actually wasn't there. And they lied and misled the American people. And by doing that, all the times they testified before Congress, the Senate, they lied over and over and again with this, we've seen something, we can't tell you about it because it's classified. But what do we now know by everything that's been declassified is that they didn't have any intelligence on Russia colluding with Trump. In fact, the only intelligence that they had is that the Russians were very well aware of Clinton's plan, and they actually not only thought Clinton was going to win, but likely preferred that she would win. So going back to the cover-up of her missing emails, that, by the way, are still missing, they all got involved in this plan. They all got the FBI exercise. They were able to go spy on the Trump campaign. They were able to then get the Mueller witch hunt going that then led to the Ukraine. Remember, that dies off. Then you have the fake whistleblower and the Ukraine impeachment. I mean, that needs a whole investigation in and of itself. We now know the latest information that happened on January 6th now with, agents that were out there, the pipe bombs, all this other stuff that is, who broke the windows that I asked when I was in Congress. I really wanted to know that. But most importantly, Maria, who's the victim in this? The victim is President Trump and his family.
Yeah.
They raided Mar-a-Lago. That's a problem, and we need answers to that.
Raided Mar-a-Lago, and that is a problem. that is a problem. You had no reason to be there. It's interesting to me when I hear people like Ty Cobb and a lot of these other pundits, they just cannot wrap their head around this idea that the president cannot possess classified documents because he is the classification authority. His act of possessing them and showing them to anybody else declassifies them, right? He doesn't have to say it. He doesn't have to declare it. He doesn't have to write it. He doesn't have to sign a piece of paper. He can just hand it to you. And by virtue of handing it to you, he has given you a security clearance to look at that piece of paper. The idea that the National Archives somehow triggered off this warrant to search a former president's house is stunning. Talk about a low barrier of entry. Oh, hey, the president, he might have classified documents. Did you hear the question that you just asked? It doesn't actually square. All right. CNN, in another beautiful post or a moment for Scott Jennings here, he set them right on this whole thing because, of course, everybody's concerned about weaponization of government. Suddenly, it's the new buzzword, weaponization and lawfare.
And put somebody who, I mean, is just simply inept and unqualified to actually have that job.
Well, she was apt and qualified enough to get a grand jury to look at the evidence and return 2 charges against him. Are you saying that this process, which is used all over the country every single day to bring crimes all over the code, is somehow broken? These are ordinary citizens in a liberal jurisdiction who looked at evidence from a prosecutor and said, yeah, it looks like there's something here. Is that not what happened?
Yeah.
Watching somebody like Speaker Johnson normalize that, it sends us down an incredibly dangerous path.
I'm stunned to hear you say we're now worried about normalizing this kind of thing. We had an attorney.
You are about to do right now. Let's hear it.
I'm about to tell you what happened in the state of New York when the Democratic Attorney General ran an entire political campaign promising not to uphold justice, but to prosecute one person, Donald Trump. And I didn't hear a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth among Democrats about normalizing the weaponization of justice.
And what we're talking about is the abuse of the system.
What abuse beyond the idea of prosecuting people when Democrats were going after Trump? Were you worried about abuse?
Because I firmly believe that Donald Trump broke the law and he was indicted.
Do you think the 34 charges that are cited all the time were good charges?
But let me actually go back to Joe Biden. Joe Biden indicted his own son. Did he deserve to be indicted? Yes. But he indicted his own son.
You're saying the White House was directing. You're saying the White House was directing indictments.
But there's nobody
directing indictments. That's a revelation.
Have one person speak at a time. What were you just saying?
Yeah, he did pardon him, and
So Hunter Biden, he was indicted by the Biden administration. Oh my gosh. Do you know how much meat we had to look at Hunter Biden naked? We had to watch him commit crimes against humanity on our social media feeds, right? While you guys were censoring it for legacy media, on social media, a lot of us were watching Hunter Biden in full on display. And then they're like, well, they had to indict him. Yeah. And you pardoned him. You planned on pardoning him from day one. It was always performative. From the very, very beginning, it was always performative. And you know who knew it was performative? Every single person who gets their news from Rumble. If you haven't already, make sure you download the Rumble app. It's free, simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content you want once you've got it. We love Rumble. Search for my channel and hit follow. Please do not forget to follow the show if you're not already. You might just be randomly showing up every morning. That way you'll get notification every time we go live. No missed shows, no extra steps. You can grab it right now using the link in the description or the pinned live chat. Download it to your phone and you're ready to go. And if you prefer watching on the big screen, Rumble is available on all major streaming devices and smart TVs. Just search for Rumble and follow the channel and be part of the action. One of the funniest things that I hear is every now and then my wife will cast the show onto the TV, the big TV, right? Usually she just watches it or listens to it on her phone. When she casts it on the big TV, my little boys who, that generation's all their YouTube fans, they just think it's so cool that Dad's on TV. So anyways, don't forget to download the Rumble app and listen to the show on Rumble. Even that one person over there on YouTube, come on over to Rumble, get the Rumble app. You'll love it. Okay. So as you can see here, in the mainstream media, there's this idea that everything that they did to Trump was copacetic, totally cool. He was a criminal, but Comey, oh, this is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt. Sean Spicer, though, lets us know what's really going on in D.C. and how people really feel about it. As you know, Sean Spicer used to be the press secretary, wasn't very long lived. He stayed in the Trump orbit, kind of in their good graces. He's kind of had a couple hit and misses with Donald Trump, but for the most part, he's in the good graces. And he was getting a whole bunch of insider information from people over the weekend.
Read you verbatim a text I got this morning from one of my former White House colleagues. Tell your two-way friends that this one feels good because we know what he was doing was illegal to us. We watched it. We lived it. Now we just have to watch him weather the media declaring him as being persecuted. Worth it. Enjoy your legal bills, Lion Comey. That's how a lot of us feel right now. And
Sean,
I'm just going to tell you.
Put that in a time capsule. That is perfectly stated. That's the way the Trump world views this. It's perfectly stated. And that, I don't want anyone selectively prosecuted. I don't want anyone on ticky-tack charges. But if you're talking about the politics of this and why the president did what he did and why he ordered the Justice Department to do it, it's all embodied right in what Sean read.
Yeah, but hold on a second. Let's unpack your statement. Start with the fact that he ordered it. Okay, unprecedented.
Outrageous. Not unprecedented. Not unprecedented.
Okay, Richard Nixon. Who else?
I think Kennedy probably did.
Oh.
There, I'll smear the Kennedys.
Okay. All right. So unprecedented. Biden did not order stuff. Mark, that's not.
What he said about Garland, absolutely.
Biden seemed to encourage it.
So did Joe Biden go on X?
No, but Dan, it's not going to be apples to oranges.
Could
Dan,
Joe Biden go on X?
Dan,
could he?
Dan, I don't want to go down this road because you're right. What the president did, in many ways, unprecedented and
firing U.S. attorneys.
No, people fire them all the time. Thoroughly outrageous.
Not for that reason.
Thoroughly
Mark.
outrageous.
Not for that reason.
Comey's son worked for the Eastern District.
Any American who cares, and I joked about norms at the top. Any American cares about the abuse of power by the president regarding the Justice Department should be outraged, and it's an outrage that Republicans are not speaking up. 100% agree with you, Dan.
But you can't yada yada over this.
I'm not. I didn't yada yada over
it. I'm going to take 30 seconds to just say this. It is unprecedented.
Okay,
for the president
Mark
to order
Halpern
it.
on the left here. Mark Halpern has got good political instincts. He really does play the middle. You don't really know if he's left or right. I honestly believe he's much more right-leaning, probably because of, common sense. But the guy on the right of your screen here, they're Democrat. I honestly don't remember his name. Okay, and then Sean Spicer in the middle. So they're having these are all pundits, right? Having their little political conversation. And I don't really agree with what Sean Spicer or with what Mark Halpern just said. I don't agree that every Republican should be upset about the potential for weaponization of government and stuff like that. I don't believe that at all. I think you have to have been living under a rock. And I think that you've got to be pretty silly to think that when they do it to you, that if you don't do it back, that somehow they'll have this attitude of like, oh, they didn't do it back to us, therefore we'll back off. No, this is a zero-sum game. This is politics. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. There has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. End of story. Someone has to write the history. It's that simple. So I don't think anybody sees this as, oh, Trump's now taking it too far. I see it as Trump's finishing it. I mean, it's schoolyard bully stuff.
It is unprecedented to then blow out any U.S. attorneys that said his own team said, no, there isn't anything there.
You don't know. You don't know that.
No.
All right, guys. Well, we don't know
it.
Hold on a sec. All we're going on is by the reports that, by the way, Pam Bondi hasn't come out and refuted it.
You're asserting that. You don't need that, Dan. The other stuff you said is 100%
well, no,
right.
I'm going to say it.
But don't go to stuff you don't know because it weakens your case. On a platform dedicated to truth, love, and understanding. And I want everyone, not yada, yada, yada. I want everyone to listen to what Dan said, because if all you focus on is what a bad guy you think Comey is and what just deserts this is, you are doing a disservice to America. What the president's done is outrageous. It's dangerous. And imagine President Ro Khanna or President AOC saying to a U.S. attorney, you must indict this person. Find a way to indict them. I don't care what the career people say. If you don't find that one of the most dangerous things a president has ever done, then you're so partisan and so MAGA, you can't see straight. At the same time, Sean, do you want to say you think what the president did was outrageous or no?
I think after what happened to us and all, this is like the Kimmel thing in a way to me, which is everyone got outraged about Kimmel, but no one cared about us. Everyone getting outraged about, I was never a target, but I certainly sat in plenty of those rooms with Mueller's folks. And so no one gave a crap about any of us, what it was doing financially, reputationally, whatever. And now suddenly it's, oh, Jim Comey, let's go on a walk and look at seashells together. I'm sorry. You know what? You're going to have a hard time making me feel bad about this.
Okay.
Well, and look, I'll say this too. It didn't work
Steve
for
Bannon went to prison. Peter Navarro went to prison. Like, you guys, I'm sorry. Like,
well, and they indicted Trump 4 times with one legit case.
If that.
That's your opinion that one was select, but was
I think
strong.
one is a push.
But I'll say this: it didn't work for Newt Gingrich and Republicans in '98 to try to get Bill Clinton on sex. Didn't work for the Democrats when they went after Trump. I have never seen this work for a political party.
So the problem with what that our Democrat pundit there is saying is, I've never seen it work for a political party. You've never had crime like this. You've never had cases like this. There's no examples that run parallel. None. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. There's no examples where you can go, oh, look, when Newt Gingrich tried to go after Clinton, it didn't work out for Newt Gingrich and the Republicans. That's not what this is. This ends with people in jail. What Newt Gingrich was going after ended in Bill Clinton being embarrassed. That's what it ended in. This was zero sum. This was not a game of politics. This was Trump, you're going to jail. Trump, the people who work with you are going to jail. Trump, the people who are your attorneys are going to lose their bar license, going to lose all credibility, and some might even go to jail. I mean, they did indict Sidney Powell. They did indict Jeff Clark. They did indict the gal who took a plea deal. Can't remember her name off the top of my head. I liked one of her Facebook posts and it ended up in my trial because I liked it. Literally, I made the like button all big after they honed in on her post. I don't even, Jenna Ellis, that was her name, Jenna Ellis, right? They indicted her, got her crying up there, reading her deal at a plea sentencing, which she should have never done because later the truth came out that now she's wrong. So she's double lied. She lied to the court about saying that she was telling the truth because she said, oh, what the truth was lying. And then the truth came out and confirmed what she said the first time, which was the truth, which she just told the court that she was lying about. So now she's a double confirmed perjurer. That's what I think is amazing about, even in the January 6 cases, people took plea deals and then they turn around and they're like, oh, hey, look, I was unjustly, but you perjured yourself. You're now admitting perjury. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just shows me that, you know, apparently the stick is enough to motivate people and, you know, truth doesn't always mean something. So this is JD Vance. Last clip before we have to head private. I'm sorry, guys. We have to do it. We got to go private. I got to get the time in. But this is JD Vance saying this is not the end. So whether this is targeted lawfare or this is justice, we are in for a ride.
Let's start with this. President Trump has said that the indictment of James Comey is justice, not revenge. There is pushback to that, of course, among Democrats, including Senator Tim Kaine, who is calling it a complete political hatchet job. The president has said, quote, there will be others. And in the past, he has listed Adam Schiff and Letitia James. Do you think there are more indictments coming, and do you think that's justified?
Well, there's certainly going to be more indictments coming over the next 3.5 years of the Trump administration, but we're always going to let the law drive this stuff and the facts of the case and not political motivations, which frankly makes us so much different from the Biden administration, where they indicted not just the president of the United States, but so many people who were just engaged in the basic job of politics, who were engaged in policymaking, who disagreed with the Biden administration. And because that they faced prosecution from that same administration. If you look at the Comey indictment, Martha, this was a grand jury indictment delivered in Alexandria, Virginia, not exactly a hotbed of Donald Trump's political support. There were 3 requested indictments. The grand jury returned 2 of those 3 indictments. So I think they showed they were judicious. I think that it showed clearly that there were a couple of things that James Comey did wrong. And to the people who are saying that this is all political, I mean, look, if you look at our track record in the Trump administration, there have been people who have been prosecuted, who have been political allies, who agree with our politics. There have been people who disagree with our politics. We're not letting politics drive this. We're letting the requirements of the justice system and the law drive this. And unfortunately for James Comey, when I look at this indictment, I see a guy who lied under oath, and he'll have his day in court. He'll have his opportunity to prove the other case in front of the jury. But the idea that this is driven by politics, I think is preposterous when you actually read the details of the indictment and the obvious fact that James Comey did lie under oath to Congress multiple times.
That's true. It's hard to say he didn't lie under oath unless, of course, you're into that, you know, fake history thing, Ty Cobb. All right, so we are going to be jumping over into private. We are going to be talking about a bombshell posting that Donald Trump put out talking about the endocannabinoid system. All right, here's the deal. Marijuana, it's here to stay. Cannabis, it's here to stay. It's way too good for your health for it not to be here to stay. And Donald Trump posted a video talking about just that. So senior citizens, beware. CBD and THC is coming to steal the party. The pharmaceutical industry is going to be redone with cannabis. So we're going to be talking about that in private. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump getting rid of potentially capital gains tax. We're going to be talking about Will Wilson, co-founder of Antithesis, an AI contractor for Palantir. And he goes, it's very possible we're entering a world where soon any kind of cognitive labor or any kind of reason or any kind of thought, it'll be a thing that weirdos do. So peasants, we're just a bunch of weirdos, I guess. We're going to have to keep our thought. And then we're going to hear a little bit from Scott Bessent about pay raises coming in 2026 for the American people. So that's what we're going to be talking about over in the private. So please join us over there. And we are moving on from Comey, although he is going to be in the news a lot, probably for the next few years now that he's got an active indictment. So we'll see how that goes. The question is this retribution or is this justice? We will see. Okay, so those of you that can join me in private, I look forward to seeing you there. And the rest of you, we'll talk to you again tomorrow.